This is a 93.7 WBLK Go Getta Mix exclusive. Know what it is? With ADRI.V.
Hey, my go-getters, it is me, ADRI.V, the go-getter, and I want to welcome you to another aspect to my show, what I like to call the Go Getta Mix Reloaded. What is that? Well, it's more of candid conversation, community conversation, real raw conversation, and being able to keep the conversation going because, of course, during my show, when it's a 10 to 2, we play music, we know what you want to have. We want you to get your music. But we also want to be able to serve up our community with the ability to be edutained, to be educated and entertained in regards to what's going on. And normally I do the rundown in the town, but here's another chance for us to really get what's going on. So in this current atmosphere, we got a lot happening politically. And of course, when it comes to the local aspect, it's stuff that's going down June 25th that some of us may not be aware of. And I'm talking about the primaries. So I took it upon myself to make sure the people that I know I reached out to immediately to say, hey, I had no clue that this was happening so quickly, and it shifted from September to now June. And I want to do my part to make sure that people are getting out to vote, but also for them to know exactly who are the candidates. And so for those that I didn't get a chance to reach out to, you are welcome and open to come here way before June 25th. So with me right now, I have a young lady that I got a chance to know way before she became the Honorable Miss April Baskin. And I got a chance to know her from an educational standpoint through her love and her care for, of course, our youth and higher education. So I want to welcome to the mic, my lady, Miss Honorable April Baskin.
Hey, ADRI.V.
How are you?
I'm well.
Am I saying this right? The Honorable?
You can say that.
I can say that?
Yes, you can.
Erie County Legislator.
Yeah.
Miss April Baskin.
That's right.
So for those who have no clue who April Baskin is, tell us who you are.
So April Baskin is currently a elected official that represents the city of Buffalo for county government. I am the legislator for District 2, which is, it covers the east side of Buffalo and the west side of Buffalo, specifically the Maston District, the University District, the Niagara District, which is the west side, and a little bit of Ellicott and Lovejoy and North. And I'm also the chairwoman of the legislature. So in addition to just representing the east side and the west side for county government, I also have the responsibility and the pleasure of presiding over all 11 districts in Erie County, which is a huge responsibility. Erie County is the second largest county of the 52 counties in the state of New York. And so being a female, being African American, and being the youngest in the history of the legislature to serve as chairwoman is quite a privilege.
It is. Girl, I just got chills. That's a lot of work.
Yes.
That's a heavy load.
It is.
And you're carrying it. You're carrying it and you're pushing forward. So what made you decide to say, hey, you know what, this is what I want to get into? Because prior to that, of course, I got a chance to know you through your program, which is called
the College Simulation Experience.
And I tell you, the College Simulation Experience was one dope experience that I got a chance to be a part of. And then after that, I was like, I got to bring every kid I know a part of this. You know, it's really, really great work that you did. But what made you say, you know what, I can no longer just impact from this level, I want to impact at another level?
Well, the mission of the College Simulation Experience is always to empower young people who have an opportunity but are not always equipped or aware on how to take advantage of the opportunity. I've always been somebody that's about access, because I know that as a young person growing up on the west side of Buffalo, I was goal oriented. I had dreams. I was not one of those kids that were like in the streets getting into trouble, but access to those dreams always complicated some of how I was able to navigate to my goal. Mm-hmm. And I've always been passionate about eliminating the barriers for people and creating access. So the College Simulation was all about these young people that are growing up in the hood, that are from the inner city and urban communities. No one in their family has gone to college yet. Everybody's telling them that because of their demographic and their economic status, college is free, right, and they should go. But the reality of them actually being prepared to take advantage of the opportunity isn't real. And so you have to ask yourself, is that truly an opportunity? Right. And so I set out to solve that issue. And then when the opportunity to serve in county government came my way, it was the same feeling. You know, we have all of these opportunities opportunities for people who live in poverty to be able to excel and head towards upward mobility through county services. You can get a daycare stipend so your kids can be in daycare while you work. You can get food stamps if your job is not able to help you provide for your families with nutrition. You can get rent stipends, and there's all these opportunities for veterans and seniors and people who are on the, not on the up and up at a certain point in their life, but do they have access? Not always. There's all these opportunities for us to have a better life, and especially through government resources, but not everybody can actually get to them. Sometimes transportation is a barrier.
Right.
Sometimes actually understanding how to read the paperwork or fill out an application so you can actually so you have to ask yourself, is county services actually an opportunity for people to change their lives around and get on the right foot? Not if the right people are not elected to office to create that access. So I've always been somebody that's serious about creating access and real opportunities so that people have a chance to achieve their goals.
Absolutely. And that's so true, because of course I had the opportunity to be a part of the EOP program, right? And the college access aspect, when having to enlighten individuals about it, some of us was completely unaware, you know what I mean? And if it wasn't for my mentors and people connecting me to other individuals, I would have completely not been able to take advantage of the opportunity that was presented to me.
Right.
So you're absolutely right about that. So being someone who's always been pushing this kind of an envelope, how do you feel since being in position you have done just that?
I'm very excited about a lot of my achievements thus far. So I've been elected for 18 months because I sit in a seat that is a 2-year term, which means every other year you're actually running so that you can finish it. Yeah, it is. So that you can finish the term, but also be in place for the next 2 years. You run a year before you sit. And so in the last 18 months, I've been able to work with the Department of Social Services and eliminate youth shackling when it comes to children in the detention center being taken to family court proceedings. We had a case in the city of Buffalo where there was an 8-year-old child that was brought before a judge in shackles. And the Department of Education reached out to me locally, and I was able to work with them in Department of Social Services, and the Commissioner of Social Services quickly implemented a policy saying that that's not needed if the child is not a threat to themselves or the guards that are that are harboring the young person. We've been able to work with also the Board of Education in holding the NFTA accountable to redoing a contract for transportation when it comes to our young people getting to and from school. And the bus pass system was very complex, very confusing, very strict, and it just wasn't working for families and children and our youth that were on their way to school. So that was another success. No county in the state of New York was supporting bail reform. Now that was something that needed to be done at a state level, eliminating monetary bail for nonviolent misdemeanors. So we're talking, there are people who were locked up in the holding center, and we all know the egregious malpractice of our local holding center for doing things like having an expired driver's license or not being able to pay fines or trespassing. They would go before a judge, and if they could not make bail, now they're in the holding center. They're not a threat to the community.
Right.
And so there's no reason for them to be in jail because they just don't have the money to post bail. That, in a way, was punishing poverty. So I felt that Albany was taking a long time to do it. I worked together with former Buffalo Bill NFL Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas to come into the legislature and persuade my colleagues. I fought hard, and Erie County passed a resolution that told Albany to get it done. And a couple months later, Albany passed the bill and got it done. I mean, there were so many things. The Buffalo DMV was not open ever in the evenings. It always closed at 4:15, where you would find in Tonawanda and in Cheektowaga, not only do they have Saturday hours out there, but there's one night a week where they stay open to 6 p.m. But every single day of the week, Buffalo's DMV closes at 4:15. So what does that do for people that work until 5 o'clock when they need to interact with their local DMV? I found that to be an issue. I pressed, and the county clerk has now opened the Buffalo DMV the last Thursday of every month. until after 5 p.m. so that people who get off work downtown or who work in the schools have time to actually get down here and deal with the DMV. So I feel like I've been successful. I feel like I'm creating opportunities for access. I mean, if I could sit here and talk about all of the opportunities that were created for me to make change in the last 18 months, we'd be sitting here for hours. But it was, in addition to God's grace, it was just the community really believing in me and working with me. I would be remiss to not mention that the death of India Cummings is now under investigation by the state attorney general. And that was something that I called for as a legislator who has oversight of the holding center where she died due to the deputies not giving her the attention that she needed while she was housed there in 2016. And I pressed and pressed, and the community stood with me. And the state attorney general is now investigating her death, which was ruled a homicide by the state due to malnourishment by the deputies at the holding center. So a lot has been done. We have a lot more to do.
Yes.
And I'm very passionate about getting it done.
So like you said, a lot has been done. And with time pressing, come June 25th, and if things fall how you want them to, what do you plan to do next?
Oh boy, there's so much more to do.
Just give me your top three.
I mean, my top three is definitely lead is still very heavily impacting our children, specifically on the east side of Buffalo. And I said earlier that I represent that side of Buffalo. So Buffalo is, in our country, we have the third oldest housing stock in the country. And so with that comes, under the new paint that we may see in some of the older homes, lead paint is still under it. And that's because the state regulations to repairing that or doing away with it aren't as strict as they could be or should be. And it's at a detriment to our young people. So what happens is paint peels or window seals chip away, and babies crawl on the ground and they, play on the floor, and then they touch in their mouths or suck their thumbs or suck their fingers. And now they've been impacted by brain damage, because that's what lead poisoning is. And so with that comes, now you have a baby who has high lead levels, and now they're entering the education system and they're delayed. And so I think early intervention practices until the state can do what they need to do by strengthening lead rebatement in homes. What we need to do is just make sure that more kids can get early intervention through the county, so that if they are impacted by lead poisoning, when they get into the school system, they're not too far delayed. And then I think the second thing is, I come from an arts background. I have a theater degree, and I really see
never knew that.
Yes. And I see I went to Performing Arts Academy, and I see a lot of thriving, beautiful artists here in the city of Buffalo, visual artists.
Right.
And when I saw that Freedom Wall go up on East Ferry,
amazing.
I was so blown away. And to know that we were able to put money in the pockets of artists of color to create that. Yes.
Yeah.
It was, it made me feel so good. So I look at all the development happening in the city of Buffalo, and I look at all the developers who come to the ECIDA and ask for tax breaks, because when they create their development, they're going to have a certain amount of affordable housing, or they promise a certain amount of jobs to women and minorities. Why aren't they also promising to get these tax breaks to house their new establishment with the artwork of local artists?
It's true.
Why not why populate it with, typical artwork when there are people locally who are creating wonderful art that could be put to work and a part of this revitalization of our city by having their artwork utilized in all of this development. And, I said that recently to some people that I were talking to, exploring more Children's Museum, on the waterfront. Now it's at Canal Side. That's a beautiful, huge establishment. Huge. We need to see the artwork of local artists in there, and they need to eat and they need to be provided for. And that's how we create a stronger community. So those two policies are, addressing the lead issue and definitely getting local artists to work.
Yeah. And one more. Well, we got one more.
I have one more. I mean, if everything's a priority, what is a priority?
I mean,
transportation.
We're not putting it in like necessarily, a certain order.
Such an order.
Yeah.
Transportation. I'm working with Senator Tim Kennedy on transportation barriers here in the city of Buffalo. He's the new chair of transportation for the state of New York.
To go all the way down.
That's right.
What are we going to do?
We need, and there are some pockets in some areas where the bus just doesn't come or go, and that limits people's opportunity to be able to get to a potential job. Our local MWB law is severely outdated. I had the pleasure of going to the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, and MWBE, for those who don't know, is minority and women business enterprise local laws that make sure that women and minorities have fair and equitable opportunities to be included when it comes to the county government on county contracts, that they are considered first, and that there's a certain percentage of the workforce that is set aside in Erie County for contractors and vendors of services who are women and minorities. Our percentage rate is significantly lower than other counties in the state of New York. So that law has to be updated. So that would be the third thing.
Right. Yeah. And so that is something that I have become aware of, and just being a woman of color and having many friends who are entrepreneurs and really pushing the agenda of starting their own businesses. With that aspect, I'm just going to, if we can elaborate a little bit on that, what would you want to see specifically when it comes to making people aware of the opportunities, and allowing there to be access?
Okay, so this is an idea that I haven't shared with anybody.
You sure you want to share it right now?
I'll just share it with everybody in the city that's listening. I would like to see a directory of businesses that are owned by women and minorities that preside in zip codes that are in poverty. So I really want to see basically the women and the minorities who they themselves are entrepreneurs who are taking that leap, but who operate in zip codes that are in poverty, or who they themselves are in poverty, meaning it's very difficult for them to actually make any overhead as an entrepreneur. I'd like to see a directory of those businesses put together, and it to be the first source of information that Erie County goes to when they need a caterer, when they need cleaning services, when they need counselors or mentors when it comes to the Department of Youth Bureau, when they need toilet paper, when they need to buy paper, when they need to make photocopies. All of these services are vended out. The county has to pay people to come in and clean the building, and we pay people to give us paper to make our photocopies, and we pay people to come in and fix computers and things of that nature. And there are small businesses out here that are being run by people that are women and that are minorities, and they themselves just aren't getting the business that they need. And if county government is really in the business of helping people have a better quality of life and getting to a place of stability, we will look at those small business owners first and give them an opportunity to bid. So I think the first step is creating the directory and finding who those business owners are, and then creating it and taking it to the county and my colleagues in the legislature and seeing if I can whip the votes together to make it, a priority to consider these people first, so that we have the equity that we should have. Everybody should have an opportunity to have a good life here in Erie County. And as long as I'm chairwoman of the county, I'm going to make sure that that's a priority for me.
Absolutely. I love that. And especially for those that are MWBE certified. And getting certified is a whole nother process.
Is that getting the paperwork together, and then it's up to you to check for the bids every single day. And if you're someone that has a family and you also are working a job, because right now your small business just isn't bringing in enough money for you to totally take care of yourself, the likelihood of you getting online and checking for the bids every day and then bidding and seeing if you got it or not, that's a big process. Yeah. So even creating some type of technology system where certain people can get alerts when bids that comply with what their services are for their business come up, I'm open to that as well. We need to be more creative. We need to be more innovative. There's a reason why God has allowed a 36-year-old millennial to be chair of the legislature, and it's not to do things the same old way we've been doing them.
I love it, and I'm so happy that you brought it back to this millennial situation. Of course, being 36, that's crazy. And it's because when you think about when we were younger, in all these years, would you ever really thought about yourself being in the position that you are now?
Never.
Right? And it's just like, we look back, and I remember going out and passing out flyers. I don't forgot his name. If somebody remember in the room, let me know. He was he wasn't I think he was either a city official. I don't forgot his position, but he wore bow ties all the time. I think it was Pitts.
It might have been James Pitts. It might have been Pitts.
And my neighbor would pay me to help take the flyers door to door to door to door throughout the neighborhood, right?
You canvassed.
I did. I was canvassing all the time.
Noted.
I was like,
ADRI.V's a canvasser. She works on campaigns.
Listen, when I was just an itty bitty kid, I was like, wait, you gonna give me some money? Wait, you gonna give me some ice cream? Me and my best friend, about 10 from the time we were 10 all the way to 12, because I remember the last time he promised us this ice cream situation from Casa de Pizza. It was like this piece of ice cream. I forgot, and he did not get it for us. I'm gonna run up on him when I see him. I promise you. I remember and every time I see him, like, when you gonna take us to Casa de Pizza? And after that, I was like, I quit. I'm not doing this no more. Like, you ain't fulfilled what I was saying. But when I look back at it, it was just like, oh wow, like he's going door to door. He's passing this out, and his picture are on these flyers, and it was just such this big thing. And now I have people that I know who are running, who are young, who are vivacious. It's no longer a game for the old heads, right? It's now a game for the young, the millennials, to really push a dope agenda. So what can you say for those who are young, and who are and may have a passion when it comes to the policies and wanting to get into this line of work? What would you say to these young people and what they can begin to do now, because it was never in our foresight, it was never in what we were looking to do. But like you said, when having this desire to give back in such a major way and realizing there's lacks in your community, how can I step up and do so? So what would you say to this next generation?
I mean, it may sound cliche, but you just gotta go for it. On the way here, we were talking about taking risk, and I think at least my peers, I won't speak for all millennials or my entire generation, but I think we're very analytical thinkers, and we want to have stuff planned out. We need to have the team, we need to have the logo, we need to have the website up. And if it's not all set, then we're not coming out. I'm not putting it out until I come out fresh, And I credit that's Diddy's fault. He did that to us because when he just came on the scene, it was like
together.
Yeah, Bad Boy just had a family, and and so you forget that there is going to be a process of growth, and you're not going to know everything.
Right.
And, when I first got elected, I immediately was recognized as a leader by my colleagues, and they made me the majority leader. I had no experience in politics at all. I was running just as a Black single mother who didn't want my predecessor, Betty Jean Grant's seat, to go to a male or to go to one of my white counterparts. I wanted it to stay the seat of I felt like Black women needed to have a voice in county government.
Yes, we do, yeah.
We need to. And county government is the branch of government that has direct services with the people, specifically the poor. And Black women hold their communities together in a very, very unique way. I won't say we're the only ones, but we just a unique way.
Betty Jean Grant, I used to go to her store all the time to buy ice cream as a kid.
Yeah.
And she was like, how your mother doing? How your daddy doing? She knew my whole family. And still to this day, she'll walk up on me like, how's everybody doing?
Aww.
And she would know anybody and everybody.
Those are the qualities of a good leader.
Absolutely, that walked into the store.
Yeah.
So shout out to her.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that legacy lived on. And I didn't know everything, but I took a risk and I did it anyway. And I trusted enough in my work ethic and that I'm a grinder, that I will. And that's something else that millennials, like, we will figure it out. We don't wait around for something, like, because we're the Google nation. So it's just we believe that all information should be at our fingertips. And if it's not, then we're sitting around looking like, why? Like, I want to know what this means, and I'm not going to, take no for an answer. I'm going to figure it out. So we feel entitled to figuring things out, and we demand the answers. And that's all that you need in terms of taking a risk to run for office and be a leader. You need to just be bold enough to say, no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to use my critical thinking. And we just, like you said, we just make stuff extra fresh, extra dope. Like we just had like this little swag with us, our generation, where we know how to flip something small into something big. I would encourage everybody of my generation to step up when they feel something is making them uncomfortable, or they see an injustice to their community. And it doesn't have to be literally running for office. You can work with someone who's already elected. Right. There are programs that we think of, like we're the generation of like new entrepreneurs. Like, we can turn anything into a business. We can make money off of anything, and we can, make any small opportunity into something that really can benefit our families and our communities. So find somebody who's already in a seat if you don't feel it's for you, and bring the idea and the initiative to them. But just don't feel like the whole journal and notebook and vision board has to be ready. It doesn't.
It does not.
Some stuff just has to come organically. Some stuff you just have to figure it out while you're already in the ring swinging. And, you just learn new moves.
I love it.
Just go for it. Take a risk.
Go for it. Take a risk. All about jumping and praying that this parachute will come out as you make it to the bottom. It always does, right? A couple bruises, you're going to hit a couple rocks. But
the parachute, you always land smoothly.
Yes, it's always a smooth landing somewhere. And as we talk about, a smooth landing, we're running into June 25th. So tell the people exactly what is June 25th and why has it changed?
So in January, the state legislature approved election reforms, and the intent was to just make it easier for state voters to vote. So there was a lot of things that happened in this attempt to reform the election laws in New York State, and they include early voting and giving voters 10 days of early access to the ballot box, but that only applies to election day, not primary. So election day is in November. Primary day is when the given political party that is vying for a seat, those people kind of duke it out for who is going to be that party's choice candidate into the general election against the opposite party. And there'll be opportunities in the near future for Saturday and Sunday voting, and that's to help people who just don't have the time because of their job to vote on election day. So when it comes to June 25th, what they did is they consolidated the two different days in which people could vote. So we've always picked our congressperson, our congressional races in June. We've always done that. And then we've had our primaries in September, and then we've had general elections in November. So what we do by taking away the September and consolidating it to June is we save a lot of money, because it costs money to open up the polls. It costs money to pay people to work the polls. It costs money for voting machines. It just, election day costs money. And so there'll be millions of dollars saved by consolidating the September primary to match it with the congressional race in June. And then there'll be a lot of other things, like starting in 2020, young people will be permitted to pre-register to vote when they are 16 and 17 years old. And once that's implemented, a person's voter registration will be marked, and it'll just pending until their 18th birthday. And then as soon as they turn 18, they are a registered voter. So this chasing around 18-year-olds to vote because their vote matters, like that coming election, is kind of like eliminated in that. And all of this was just due to so much voter suppression that has been plaguing this country for centuries. I think New York State was really behind the ball with updating our election laws. There's so many other states that have done it already, so I'm glad that we're catching up in the game. But there's so many games and tricks played at the ballot box to stop people from voting. And so what this new election reform is going to do is it's going to create more opportunities for people to be involved, and for people to have access, and for there not to be any excuses as to why people are not utilizing their civic right to choose their leaders in this democracy we call America.
Absolutely. So June 25th, we want to encourage everyone to get out, to go and vote, and really identify and find your polls. And where can they find any polls if they are unsure where they are?
You can go to the Board of Elections website. The Erie County Board of Elections website will list everything. The Commissioner Zellner for the Board of Elections has done is he has added more voting poll sites. Okay. So there will be more opportunities and closer opportunities for people to vote. And this upcoming primary election, which I'm very, very excited about as well. We're just trying to create, as it goes back to access. That's my buzzword. That's my theme of life. It's not a real opportunity if I can't take advantage of it. So don't tell me that you're making life easier for me if I can't touch it. And so that's what this voting reform has done. I know the Erie County Board of Elections is working hard to make sure that we're in compliance with the changes from the state. And the best thing that people specifically in the city of Buffalo can do is to vote in the primary. The Democratic Party and Democrats heavily outweigh other parties when it comes to the city of Buffalo. So if you are affiliated with that party, your opportunity to be able to be engaged in who represents you is decided in the primary, meaning there isn't going to be any other parties really running that much on any other party line. So when the city of Buffalo chooses what Democrat is going to represent them, they're choosing the person who's going to represent them. So primary day is super, super important for those that align with that particular political party in the city of Buffalo. So primary day is super, super important.
So with that importance, tell the people how they can follow you online, website, to know exactly what you got going on.
Yes, I am at ADRI.gov/April Baskin. You can find me on Facebook. I am... what's my Facebook tag? Legislator April Baskin. I know my website is www.april4eriecounty.com. And if you just type in April Baskin on Twitter, I am April for Erie County on Twitter as well. And yes, it's Legislator April Baskin on Facebook.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, my go-getters, what you need to do is get out and vote. The best way for you to exercise your right and, of course, for things to get done in your district is to vote, 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 vote. Tell your friend, tell your neighbor, drag everybody that you possibly can to get out June 25th. And, of course, like she said, visit those particular websites so that you can get the support that you need.
That's right. So just to echo that, primary day in New York is now Tuesday, June 25th. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And if you have any questions or if you need a ride to the poll, you can just call 716-853-2511. That's 716-853-2511, and you can get an actual ride to your voting poll location. And they will know where your voting poll location is. So you got to do is call and say you want to go vote, and they'll just take you there.
I love it. So it's easy. That's access right there.
That's access.
That's access. Well, listen, you already know this is the Go Getter Mix Reloaded with me, ADRI.V, my featured go-getter, Miss April Baskin, and get out and vote. It's just that simple.
This is a 93.7 WBLK Go Get a Mix exclusive. Know what it is with ADRI.V.